This video, we're going to be focusing on understanding how to change the subject of formula. So, in order to understand how to change the subject of formula, I'd like to break the explanation down in 3 steps. So, I would say the first step is to eliminate. The second step is to equate. Third step is examples. So basically this video is going to be divided into 3 parts to help you understand how to change subject of formulas. So for the elimination, we are going to be making, let's say you have 2x plus 5y plus 6y, and you wanted to make the x or the 2x standalone. The way you're going to do it is to subtract 6y here, right? So you would have plus 6y minus 6y, which is eventually equal to 2x. So you have standalone of 2x. Now say you have a minus b, another example, and then you want to remove a from b. You basically subtract a from b, negative b, and then you have plus a minus a is negative b. So I have negative b standalone. Or say if I were to take this example and eliminate the b, I'd be adding b here. So you have negative b plus b, which is equal to a. Now I want you to understand something. If you're going to eliminate a value or variable with a plus sign, you use the negative. If you're going to eliminate a value or variable with a multiplication sign, use the division sign. And then if you're going to eliminate a value or variable with a power sign, say x squared, you use the root sign. So this would be x cubed, x square root of x, that is. So just for the equate part, when you're given a subject of formula question, say you have 2x equals to 4y minus 6, and you're asked to make y the subject of formula. An equation is more likely like a balance of two sides. So what I'm saying, if I have this equal to, is that these values here must be equal to this value. So imagine you have, say, a scale here, and they're equal to each other, and then you have a bag of rice here and a bag of rice here. If you were to add, say, a grain of salt here, you must also add a grain of salt here to balance the equation and make both sides equal. So the equate just simply means that anything or any arithmetic operation you're performing on this side of the equation must also apply to this side of the equation. So if I were to make y the subject of formula, I'd basically be saying 2x. Now 6 is what's with the, if I were to eliminate 6 from here or this side of the equation, I would have to add 6 to this side of the equation, and the implication is that I would have to do it here too. So this 2x plus 6 equals to 4y minus 6 plus 6. Minus 6 plus 6 is ultimately 0, and then you have 4y equals to 2x plus 6. But remember, the goal was to make y the subject of formula, so I'd have to divide through, because this 4y is still the same thing as saying 4 times y equals to 2x plus 6. So I'd ultimately have to divide through by 4 to eliminate 4 from y. So this is 4 divided by 4 is equal to y, and the other side is 2x plus 6 over 4. So let's take a few examples, and I hope with that you get a clear understanding of subject of formula. So if we're to make r the subject of formula in this equation, first off, we need to break r free from all these variables. So I have v equals to 1 over 3 times pi times r, I'm separating the variables, times h. So ultimately we have pi and h multiplying r squared. So I'd say v, I'd have to divide through by pi and h on both sides. So the consequent equation becomes v over pi times h, which is equal to 1 over 3 times pi times r squared times h over pi times h. So that pi and h cancels out each other, and then you have v over pi times h, which is equal to 1 over 3 times r squared. And then this is also equal to v over pi h, which is equal to r squared over 3. This implies that since I have r squared over 3 and then v over pi over h, I have to multiply through by 3 to cancel out the 3 on the side of the r squared. So I'd have r squared over 3 times 3, which is equal to v over pi h times 3, and then 3 cancels out 3, so I'd have r squared, let me separate this one out, so I'd have r squared equals to 3v over pi h. Remember, we're looking for the subject of formula of r. We are making r the subject of formula, not r squared. So we are going to take the roots of both sides to cancel out the squared does with our r. So this becomes r squared square root, and then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So square root of 3v over pi h, which is ultimately r, as square cancels square root, so r equals to square root of 3v over pi h. So that's the answer. Now let's take another example, and we'll be making v the subject of formula. So since we have let's change the equation to this form. If we have 1 over v plus 1 over u equals 1 over f. So first off, we need to subtract or eliminate 1 over u from this part of the equation, so we could have only 1 over v. And then what we do here, we also do them here. So simply we'll be saying 1 over v plus 1 over u minus 1 over u equals 1 over f minus 1 over u. So 1 over u ultimately cancels out 1 over u, and then you have 1 over v, which is equal to 1 over f minus 1 over u. So in this case, we could take the reciprocal, or we have to take the LCM of here, so we could get the common base number here, and then a common base number here. So we have 1 over v equals the LCM of both f and u is fu, and then this equation becomes fu divided by f is u minus f. So that if we are taking the reciprocal of this one, we are going to be taking the reciprocal of this one. So anything we did here would have to be applied here. So the reciprocal of this is simply 1 over v, which is equal to 1 over u minus f over fu. Now this becomes 1 divided by 1 over v, which is equal to 1 divided by u minus f over fu. So the implication of this is that if we switch the denominator and the numerator of these values here, this sign will change to multiplication. The same thing for here. If we switch the denominator and the numerator of this value, this division would ultimately turn to the multiplication. So we'll be saying 1 times v over 1 equals to 1 times fu over u minus f. So v is equal to fu over u minus f. So that's the subject of formula when you make, that's the value of v when you make v the subject of formula from this equation. Let's take another example. So this is the third example, and I would suggest that you make a the subject of formula. Pause this video and try to make a the subject of formula in this example. Okay, so to make a the subject of formula, if we take a look at this equation, we have to remove b from this part of the equation to be left with just a, and ultimately the consequence is that we'd have to do that for both this side of this equation. Now b squared has a negative with it, so we have to add it, a b squared, to eliminate it from this part of the equation, and that would be plus b squared on both sides of the equation. So a squared minus b squared plus b squared. This ultimately becomes x squared plus b squared, which is equal to a squared, and then a squared equals to x squared plus b squared. We are looking for the subject of formula of a and not a squared, so we'd have to take the roots of both sides. So we have the roots of a squared, and we have the roots of x squared plus b squared, which is equal to a and square root of x squared plus b squared. Okay, so that's all. The subject of formula of a, making a the subject of formula in this equation ultimately delivers this value of a, which is x squared plus b squared, the root of x squared plus b squared. Now you can like, share and subscribe this video. It helps me produce more. Thank you.